Let's talk more about those numbers now and the position of Santam. We've got the CFO, Hennie Nel, with us. Hennie, thanks indeed for your time. So, compared to the wave of claims you were seeing a year ago, claims presumably would have normalized. How did that impact the first half results?
Devin, you're quite right. There's been a much more normalized environment. We see, for example, motor vehicle claims after the hard lockdown we had in January, or the lockdown at that stage, much more normalized during the rest of this period to June. We also, on the property side, we had a number of large corporate fires, which also is not unusual. I mean, that's part of our business. So I would all agree with you. It's very much a normalized trading environment, but within the context of still quite restrained growth. I think that is really, for us as a business in South Africa, still a challenge. Our business grow with the economy, and if the economy is not showing good growth, it also impacts our ability to grow. But in terms of the underwriting performance, very comfortable with what we achieved in this period.
Yes, indeed, and I want to talk about the economy in a moment. Let's move to the progress on those business interruption claims. I mean, now you're still waiting on a ruling from the Supreme Court of Appeal in the Mar Africa Hotels matter. And of course, it's over the length of time you must pay compensation for. What happens there will be crucial to your position, I would imagine.
Even I think at this stage, the matter was heard in the Supreme Court of Appeal on Friday last week. We now wait for the judgment. I think from a Santam perspective, we've done a lot of work in the last 2 months to make sure we obtain all the required information from policyholders in order to be able to process claims. I mean, whatever way the judgment goes, we would then have to sort of consider that judgment. But in the meantime, we really focus to pay as much of the claims as possible in terms of getting the information and then paying out. We've looked at our overall provision for the claims that we had at the end of 2020. We haven't made any changes to those provisions on the basis that there's a number of uncertainties still. I mean, the indemnity period you referred to would be one, but there's also the extent we get reinsurance cover and the actual losses compared to what we've provided for. So those things will all impact on the overall provision.
We mentioned earlier that you don't directly pay out insurance on riots and unrest, for example, but you were warning today that it could cost or have an impact on the cost of insurance in the future. How severe do you think that would be?
I think it goes with both the riot claims as well as the fact that there will be significant claims against reinsurers from the CBI matter. That would put pressure on reinsurance rates. If you think about it, Sasria as the insurer also have got reinsurance cover, and that reinsurance cover will most likely after these riots be more expensive to obtain. And similar with the insurers in South Africa submitting significant CBI claims. So I think the cost of reinsurance overall would go up from this, and to an extent that then would result also in higher direct premium costs to the extent that you buy insurance which requires reinsurance.
Hennie, just finally, I mean, you were speaking about the economy a little earlier. Just looking ahead, in terms of the consumer, what's your take on the sale of more policies going forward? Really, economically, things haven't changed for the better. The unemployment rate is still at staggering heights. What's your take on the impact of the economy going forward in terms of your sales?
That's a very good question. I mean, I think what we are doing is to say we need to find ways to develop products that provide value to customers in terms of being very clear what they can get from that policy and enable them to afford it. I think that is the big challenge for insurance. Insurance in South Africa is relatively expensive given the environment we live in. And I think the focus is to say, how do we make sure we get a distribution channel that can really deliver a product in the most efficient way to a customer, and in that way at least enable people to buy insurance, because at the end that benefits everybody to have the cover that the insurance policy would provide you. So our big focus is on making sure that we can grow our business in this environment, but focusing on different ways of distributing product. I mean, digital is a key area, different distribution channels with partners, and in that way actually make sure that we've got a business that's growing despite the fact that you sit in an economy that's very tough.
All right, thanks indeed. Hennie Nel, Santam CFO, thanks indeed for talking to us.